Hello, everybody. Welcome to the early tea time live stream presented by Fantasy Points. I am your host, Hunter Vaness. It is Corn Ferry Tour Week here in Omaha with the Pinnacle Bank Championship kicking off this week. I'm here to break down everything about Indian Creek Golf Course here in Omaha with the top 25 of the final Corn Ferry Tour standings on the line with golfers available to clinch their PGA Tour card. Scott, are you ready to break down this Corn Ferry Tour event?
Sure am, big guy.
I'm kidding. We are here. We're breaking down the.
VIP package tickets.
Oh yes, 4-day.
Oh my God, I spare no expense for my guy.
Oh, it's pretty awesome here. So I'm kidding. We're breaking down the FedEx St. Jude Invitational this week. It's the first week of the FedEx playoffs. Before I get into that, I would like to formally introduce my guest here today. Let me pull up some of his stats while I'm doing that here. He ranks first in strokes gained, funny tweets. He had one of my favorites last night with the Tom Kim win. He also ranks first in one-line zingers, putting him as the funniest guy on PGA Twitter. Yes, the funniest.
Yeah,
he ranks first in. Yeah,
that's true.
He ranks first in strokes gained guitar playing. I should have had him play on the intro there. He also has some of the best hair in the PGA Twitter sphere, and he's rocking a never-before-seen mustache on the live stream here today, making its debut here on the Early Tee live stream. He's got some hot takes here today. My guest, Scott Holdridge. How you doing, man?
Oh, my God. Hunter, you're too kind. That was very sweet.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Not deliver on anything you just said.
I think everyone watching knows that you are at the top of those lists there, and many other lists. Thanks for coming on here today, man.
Oh my God, thanks for having me. You've been, so good to me and talking offline and all that, and good dude. So I really appreciate you having me on, man.
Oh, I appreciate that, and I'm really excited to hear your thoughts on the first round of the FedEx playoffs that begin this week. I'll just kind of tee it up here for you real quick. The most of the top players in the PGA Tour will tee it up this week. Again, this used to be just a WGC event. However, they changed it this year. It has a field of just 60 players. It used to have just 60 players. They changed it to be the first round of the FedEx playoffs this year, replacing the Northern Trust, unfortunately, for our friends up in the Northeast. But so they're going to kick it off in Memphis this week. Abraham Ancer was victorious in Memphis last year. He beat out Hideki Matsuyama and Sam Burns in a 3-man playoff. Before we start breaking down the field and a little bit about the course here today, do you have any thoughts on really anything here? I mean, I really just want to give you the mic, but do you have any thoughts on whether maybe you could talk about the playoff system or maybe just this event in general? Do you have any memories of this event maybe in prior years? What do you think on the FedEx St. Jude Invitational?
I mean, more of a DHL guy to start. I'm just kidding.
I was like, DHL, what is that?
Yeah. They're sponsoring the Omaha tournament. Everyone kind of hates on the playoff system, but I think the first two are good because there is, this field is so stacked. It's fun and the course is tougher. So it's, I like it. I like this first event. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I'm with you. You're right. The playoff format does get some hate every year. I feel like you're right.
What else can they do though? It's like, unless they did, if like the tour championship was like match play, that'd be sick.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. If the PGA Tour really cared about, DFS players like us, I think they would maybe change it around. But I think a lot of the top players on tour like the way it is because it gives such an advantage to the top players in the world that have, been playing the best in the season. But you're right. I think match play would be pretty awesome. It's really fun to see them tee it up in Austin every year to play that match play event. But if you had a lot more on the line, like with the playoffs here, I think that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah. I'll send an email.
Oh, I know you're texting Justin Thomas. I know you have Jay Monahan on speed dial too. So
yeah, Moynihan's been blowing me up. Yeah. What do I do?
Scott, Scott, how do I fix this?
SOS help.
I messed up. Yeah.
You have 500 followers. I need you.
Yeah, I think you'd have some good ideas.
Jay, not now.
Yeah, I'm busy. Got a live stream today.
to do. I'm talking to Ezra.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So before we get into the course, I'll kind of break down the course a little bit, and we'll talk about some stats potentially, and then we'll break down the DFS field, of course. If you are watching on Twitter, of course, I love that you're watching here tonight. Really appreciate that. If you wouldn't mind hopping over to YouTube and hitting the like and the subscribe button, and come say hello to Scott too. Like I said, we were given the debut of his mustache. I really want your opinion on if he should keep it or not. I know I am definitely staying on the keep side there.
Really?
Have any thought? Yeah, what do you got to say about the mustache here tonight?
I don't know. It happened. I did it as a joke and sent it out to some people I played music with, and I thought I was just gonna get roasted.
Yeah.
And then they're all like, "Oh yeah, cool man, keep it." But I already shaved it, so now it's a comeback. This is a comeback mustache.
Okay. Perfect. I like it.
We'll see how it plays.
I like it. The only time I've ever had a mustache, like I kind of have a baby face, so I can't really rock it too much without
Oh, you
looking
could
kind of like a creeper. But
shred cheese on that jawline, babe. What are you talking about?
okay, now you're being too kind. But no, I shaved it.
Show doesn't
Kinda
start
shaved
till I
it in.
make the host uncomfortable.
Well, you're right. Well, we're 7 minutes in. I think you've done that just a couple times here.
I did that early.
Yeah, no, I'm kidding. So St. Jude Invitational, right? It takes place at TPC Southwind. It's a par 70 course. It measures just over 7,200 yards. One of the main themes of this course is the 11 different water hazards that come on 11 different holes. You'll see this stat. You probably already heard it or read it somewhere. More golf balls have been hit into the water here on this course than any other place on tour since 2003. So you're probably going to be seeing a lot of bogeys this week. In my opinion, the guy who makes the least amount of mistakes, I know that sounds obvious, but will likely be near the top of the leaderboard. Of course, there's a lot of other things that go into that. The fairways at TPC Southwind are made of zoysia grass, and the rough is made of Bermuda grass, which is pretty sticky, and it can be really hard to hit out of if you miss the fairway. So going to be interesting to see. We always talk about that distance versus accuracy off the tee debate. Probably, I think both will play an advantage this week, of course, but it is tough, of course, to hit out of that Bermuda rough. The greens are relatively small compared to PGA Tour average. When I was looking at them, I think it ranks inside the top 5 of smallest on tour. There's also 11 different dog legs on this course, so you'll probably be seeing, a lot of those. I don't know. I guess we'll have to see what players do. I don't know if they'll still use driver off the tee there, but it's really going to be about setting up that proper angle into the green. Scott, what do you think about this course? Any stats that you're looking at this week? What do you think, I guess, looking at TPC Southwind?
Yeah, I had kind of my notes going in were just sort of like all around solid players. Maybe not, the top it approach or something, but just good all around experience, kind of like pedigree as a player too. What else? Proximity gain, good drives gain too. I think because you mentioned it too, like, is this accuracy or distance, combo of both? Like, what do you think? And yeah, I don't know. I think this is because the field's so deep. The way I'm playing it is sort of ownership plays and then kind of gut calls. Like, I know we've talked separately about like once the field is set and the board comes out and like pricing, it's sort of like, what are my early leans and feels? And then just kind of building my own narrative and just throwing 100 at it really is what I'm kind of trying to do this week. I don't know. Yeah, the small greens mentioned, I feel like that hasn't been brought up enough yet. Probably sure later in the week, but I think that gets forgotten about.
Yeah, that's a stat that this is the first year I've been really just tracking stuff down, I guess, on each course.
Cool.
That's one that I really have liked to just understand a little bit, I guess. In my opinion, like the larger the greens, right, the easier they are to hit, right, but it also leads to potentially more 3-putts. Some guys aren't really great at that category. So
Yeah.
the smaller greens, obviously it's going to be a little bit more difficult to hit. You're probably not going to see as many 3-putts as, the Open Championship, of course, with those massively, really big greens too. So yeah, thanks for highlighting that. I do think it is something, I don't know, it's not going to be the determining factor.
Thing is, it kind of like small greens, it sort of limits your options, but it's also like, well, I can only put the pins a few different places. Whereas like big greens, everyone's like, oh, everyone's going to hit the greens, but it's also like as you said, like, well, 3 putts now in play. They have more pin placement options. So yeah, it's something that I definitely look into too, or kind of keep in mind.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. That's kind
God,
of the
we're
main
smart.
features. Yeah,
God, we're
sorry.
smart.
It's so smart, right? That's why it just leads to all the money every week.
Well, yeah, not me, yeah.
I'm with you. Yeah, that's all right.
Like,
Well, that's kind of brings me to my next question. Before we start breaking down just the field in general and the DFS board, I asked this question last week to Sam, my guest. I just find it interesting to see what people do in DFS and what their strategy is and that kind of stuff. And quick side point too, I was golfing earlier this week and got matched up with a random person. And long story short, we kind of didn't talk about it for a couple of holes, but we got onto the small talk of, what are your hobbies? And it turns out he's a huge DFS PGA
oh
player
no way,
too.
that's
Yeah,
cool.
so I was just talking to him about that as well. And again, I'm just really interested in what other people do, what kind of contests. So I'll kind of ask you that as well. What contest do you look for each week? Are you a single entry guy? Are you multi-entry, that kind of stuff? And you can really say whatever. There's no judge zone here because
Oh, thank
I
God.
try to play a lot of them myself. But
Yeah.
are you more of like a gut decision guy? Are you a course history guy, stat guy, anything like that? Feel free to really say whatever on your
I
strategy.
kind of I think it's sort of in a few different categories where it's, part of it is looking at data, part of it is just, if you do this every week, it's like anything else. It's just reps over time, and
Yeah.
it does become like a skill, and like kind of just the idea of like I'm playing a game. You know what I mean? Like if it's DFS, I'm building like I try to think of it as like a mini team, and like sort of framing it around that. I'm not just saying like who are the 6 guys or like in each category I think are just going to like win. It's like no, I'm playing for points. And like once I get your head around that, and then just understanding how the volatility of golf, it's just I think it does help you build more better lineups and just take more risk. And I think as far as contests, so it sort of depends on the tournament. I love like the 20 entry tournaments, because it's like, all right, you get to. I usually do like 13 to 15 golfers and kind of stick with that, and then have like a solid core. I'm getting more into like single entry though. I kind of like that because if
Yeah.
it's just going off the rails Thursday, it's like, oh, I can just enjoy the tournament, or things start moving around on the cut. It's like, oh, whoa, you might actually make money.
Yeah. Like I said, I've gone back and forth between the two. I've been 20 entry max for all season. I think I have more fun with single entry though, because like you said, you're
Yeah,
really just sweating those 6 guys. And like when I played single entry, I mean, I still play them on the side, but it's much more of a sweat on that, Friday on the cut sweat, that kind of
yeah.
thing. Or what happened with Smotherman earlier,
Oh
last
my
week
god,
too.
yeah.
That was incredible, and I mean, I can only imagine. Some of my lineups were already dead, but I can
Oh
only imagine if you were, really fighting between that 6 of 6 or 5 of 6 near the top of the leaderboard, how much of a sweat that was, especially in single entry. So,
yeah,
um,
because it was him that he doubled the last hole that got everyone else at -1 in. I think it was that. Is that right?
yeah, yep, you're
Yeah,
correct.
how many like his phone must have like blown up the night before? Like, hey, feel free to double this.
Yeah, you'd really help me out there, Smotherman, but
Kind of a favor. Yeah.
yeah, it was honestly, and again, we can talk about the Twitter side of PGA, or the PGA side of Twitter, I guess, after the breakdown here. But it's fun too, just seeing everyone make jokes on that kind of stuff. I know some people
That's,
were saying, hey, crack some beers tonight, Smotherman, or stuff like that. It just
yeah.
makes it a lot more fun.
Yeah. Love it.
Cool. Well, shout out to Brian here in the chat. Looks like he's asking Scott here. I think he
Oh,
ranks near the top of funniest guys on Twitter as well. So
okay, good. Thank God. I need it. This is all I got, boys. Help me out.
all right. All right, let's talk about the field here. Hey,
Let's
thanks.
do it.
Thanks, Tour Picks. It's that Joe, I'm assuming. Appreciate it, man. All right. So yeah, let's break down the field here. We'll do kind of a classic first look at DK salaries here. You said it earlier. This is a really stacked field. It's not a major, of course, and it never will likely be considered a major on this course. But the field strength is right next to a major, if not better, because we get like literally these are the top 125 guys on tour. Whereas the Masters has former champs sometimes that fill out the 6K range. There's the Open
Andy
Championship
Lyle's
as
not here
well.
this week.
I don't believe he made the top 125
me
in the standings.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
Lashley withdrew, so maybe Sandy Lyle can get in.
Yeah, true. I don't know how they handle those withdrawals, to be honest. I'm looking. Okay, Kevin Tway is in at 6-1. We'll get to him later.
Oh, auto bet.
So, yeah, let's like you said, really stacked field. I love these kind of events because we'll talk about this 6K range a little bit later, but
Sure.
you can really get to a lot of the guys at the top because you're not playing, like you said, Sandy Lyle or a bunch of PGA pros at the PGA Championship that just scatter that bottom of the 6K range. So we'll talk about those a little bit later, but yeah. So let's get into it here.
Power 3 for Sandy Lyle.
True. Yeah, he'll somehow sneak into our lineups.
Always does. Always does.
So at the top of the board here, we have Rory McIlroy at 11K. He's been near the top of the DK salaries for probably the last couple of months. It is weird not seeing Scheffler or Rahm there as they've been near the top probably the last year or so, I guess, before the Open Championship, at least when they were in the field. Scotty Scheffler comes in at 10-8. Xander Schauffele at 10-6. He's still fresh off of his back-to-back wins over the Travelers as well as the Scottish Open. Cameron Smith, 10-5. He finished T5 here, I think just fifth place alone last year. I'll talk about him a little bit. Patrick Cantlay is 10-3. Justin Thomas and John Rahm fill out the 10K range. We finally have a normal DraftKings salary board with a bunch of names up here at the top.
Yeah.
I'll throw it to you here, Scott. Who are you looking at this week? Anyone that you want to talk about? Any favorite plays so far? Again, this is a first look, so of course this can change, but who is catching your eye this week?
Up top, I might I don't know. I might go Rahm or Rory. I don't know. Do you feel like Cantlay deserves this 10-3?
Cantlay,
that was kind of weird.
Cantlay, he's been really playing great as of late. We can't pull up his
backdoor Cantlay top 10.
That's the thing, though. He hasn't been, in my opinion, I guess he did have that one round. God, when did he blow up recently? Was it at the Travelers? I think he was winning for most of it. But if you look at his course,
it was rough.
Yeah, that one was pretty tough. But otherwise, yeah, you're right. A lot of it has been backdoors. But if you just pull up his, game log here on Data Golf, it's all top 15 finishes in the last 6 events. He did win the Zurich, of course. I guess you can consider that a win. But he's just been near the top of the leaderboard for so long. It's been so consistent as well. It hasn't, there's no T46 just thrown in there. So
right. Yeah, I just like Rahm because off the tee, he's not very good on Bermuda though.
Yeah.
And then I kind of like if Rory, because the price tag at 11, people might be scared of that. So that's kind of what I would go, either Rahm at 10 that really frees up the rest of the board, or starting with Rory if he's low owned. I don't think he will though. I think probably Smith will be the lowest owned.
Yeah,
or JT if the injury. Yeah. What are you feeling?
That's a good point. I'll talk about the JT injury really quick. He withdrew from, gosh, I can't remember the event now, but he withdrew from an event. Yeah, I can't remember. I think it was the Travelers, or it was one right before the Open.
He was playing a lot in a row too. I think he played
Yeah. After the PGA Championship, I know he was playing quite a bit as well. So I do have some injury concerns on him. He was cut from the Scottish Open. He finished T53 at the Open Championship. I think it was the Travelers that he withdrew from before just because he said he tweaked his back. So probably just a wait and see for me on him. You said it. I think game theory is so important this week. When it's all said and done, there's going to be a lot of these guys in the 9K or a higher range that will likely be near the top of the leaderboard. I do think it's going to be one of these guys is going to win, in my opinion. I don't think this will be much of a long shot week. So I do think,
You think
Like you
someone
said,
10
game
and
three.
above is your favorite? Like someone from there?
Um, yeah, yeah, probably. I kind of like Cam Smith a little bit this week. I just think,
It's kind of
when
sneaky, right?
he's
Everyone
yeah.
freaks out about his off the tee stat, but it's like, I mean, he'll just duck hook one, and that kind of can throw the data off.
Yeah.
But yeah, what?
So that's my thing with Cam Smith. So he was here last year. This was one of my best events last year, and he
Oh,
was near I think he was tied for the lead going into the 18th hole, and then he hit it into the trees. And I still did great,
oh,
but
that's
that's
right. I remember that. And then the next week, it was like him and Fino in the playoff. Was that right?
I think you're right.
He
Yeah,
did
we'll
the
have.
same thing. He blocked it right, and it's like, dog, you want to handle that?
Yep. And I thought he was going to win his first event there, or his first event on the season. I believe it was last year.
Yeah,
Then, um,
yeah.
but
I like that. 10-5 too. I mean, yeah, you can work with that.
yeah, so the reason I played him was he was 5% owned at this time last year. I think he was priced in the 9K range, but just no one was playing him. And I think that's what pushed me towards the top. And I'm no like genius on this ownership thing. I think there's a lot of people out there that are, know a lot about it. But when we're looking at these events with, a lot of guys at the top that are really, really solid, any of these guys can win at 10K or above, right?
Yeah.
But if the one that is 5%, or 5-10%, if they are the ones that take it down, of course you're really going to excel past the field. So, what do you think on that? I guess.
Yeah, I was kind of more curious. I wanted to ask you, like, who you think would be like the miscut here, or like a fade, full fade?
Probably, like I said, just Justin Thomas because of the injury concern. That's just kind of a cop out answer, though.
No, no,
Um,
yeah,
I think Rom's a really interesting, I guess you could say case study this week. He's not been great,
yeah,
really this entire summer in terms of Rom's, expectations, right?
yeah. Since
Um,
he won the Open, really, it's kind of been like, I get it. He's like a strokes gain machine, but
mhm.
you know,
And we all know it's mostly been the putting, right? I guess he did have some good putting performances in May and June when I'm looking at it, but he did win the Mexico Open, but since then he's got one top 10. He's made the cut in nearly every event so far this season.
yeah.
Um, it just I don't know.
He's
Like I
got a
said, it's
weird, yeah. You see some stuff that is like kind of glaring. Like he kind of bad at the U.S. Open final day, stuff like that. And it's kind of like,
yeah,
what's going on?
and he's
But
getting
it might be
frustrated.
keep his ownership down. Yeah,
That's the thing. That's why I think he's interesting this week. And again, he's getting frustrated with his game. That's not a new thing for Rom, but it just kind of shows me where he's at mentally.
yeah,
That it's really been bugging him for a while. And I know there was a quote at one of these majors that he made to another top player where he said, when I used to be hitting the ball better. And once I heard that, I kind of got out because it's more of a
mm,
mental thing for me on him. You're
yeah.
right. Ownership could be really low. He's definitely the cheapest that he's been in a long time, so I think that's a
I
good call by
I
you.
could also see Scotty, like, that might be more depending on what your book can get you. I could see him just destroying this course.
Yeah,
Like, he
like he
plays
has.
the courses, he can go yeah, it's like, dude, that's and this is weird because it's like, we haven't seen a lot of these guys in a while, except I think Cantlay in a little bit because
Yep.
towards the end of the year, it's interesting. Looking at some of the guys, I mean, we'll talk about them lower down, but it's like, man, some of these dudes haven't played in like over 5 weeks, I think.
Yeah, since the Open, really a lot of
Yeah,
them, and I think that's another thing to I mean, we can discuss this forever, right? Whether I'm sure there's, data, I guess, on both sides that support, do they need a
right.
break or is it better just to play consistently, right? Um Yeah, I guess Cantlay's probably one of the only ones up top here that's played since then. He only had one start at the Rocket Mortgage, right?
Hmm.
Otherwise, I think all of them have taken a break, so that'll be interesting. I could see some of these guys in the 9K range, and we'll get down to them here shortly, potentially, soaking up a lot of the ownership. One, just because of their salary, but two, they've just been in the public eye a little bit more. So, anyone or anything else you want to talk about in this 11K range? Who would be your favorite play? I said my fade, I guess, is Justin Thomas, but it'd also be John Rahm. Give me a favorite play and someone that you probably won't be touching this week.
Ooh, probably won't touch Cantlay, which means he'll win. Um, But I think I'll probably go Scotty Rom.
Okay, I like that, and I think that'll be pretty contrarian as well. Scotty, for some reason, just is always underowned, but
Yeah,
Rom,
it's weird. It's like this guy's having a historic year, and like no one really. They were kind of like, yeah, but it's like, dude, this guy's a killer.
yeah, just winning. I think this year I definitely learned like you can't just fade guys after they've won and expect because
Yeah,
it's happened too often now.
yeah.
Like
All right.
Scotty Scheffler winning as much as he did back then, Tony Finau back to back, Xander I think back to back as well. So
Yeah,
yeah, and I think that used to be a thing where we'd see kind of reduced ownership on guys after they had a great week, such as just saying that there's no way they can do this again or repeat this performance again. But it's
yeah.
one of those narratives that's been busted, I guess, so far. So let's talk about the 9K range here. We'll move on here. We'll start with Matt Fitzpatrick at the top, the U.S. Open champion. He also has some pretty good results here at TPC Southwind. He has a couple of top 6 finishes. Tony Finau, we already mentioned it, back-to-back wins. I do think it's another case study this week, 9-7. That's pretty high for Finau. Again, someone who wasn't cracking, 10-15% ownership for quite a while. And then obviously he's been playing much better. Will Zalatoris still looking for that first PGA Tour win. However, he does play his best golf in these loaded, stacked fields like what we'll see this week. Cam Young comes in at 9-3. He's just been a top 5 machine so far this season. It'll be interesting to me to see what the field does. Jordan Spieth at 9-1, Victor Hovland at 9K flat. Same thing here, Scott. Who is catching your eye this week? Who do you think you'll be playing?
I was shocked that Fitzpatrick was in the nines. Like, I think I'm gonna start so many lineups with him. It's like this feels so obvious. It's like, what am I missing? Or like, what's wrong with this? I mean, he has
Yeah.
all the tools. Like, I just don't get it. It's like I'm definitely placing an outright on him for sure. Um, yeah, that just seems like what? That caught me off guard.
Yeah, I agree with you. Um, like that's the thing with Rom is like guys like Fitzpatrick, Tony Finau, like they have been playing much 1,000 times better than Rom has been, in the
Yeah,
last 2 months. But Rom's just got that, long-term history, of course, that's better than these two guys. But yeah, I
totally.
agree with you on Fitzpatrick.
But it's
Like I
also like,
said,
well, let me get this straight. Matt Fitzpatrick and like Cameron Young are in the same bracket. Like that seems like what? Guy who's never won, but I get it. He bombs it and like that's cool and all, and he's a stud. But this guy just won the U.S. Open
yeah,
and like tearing it up. And Jordan Spieth, I get it, but it's like Cam Young's in the same bracket with Finau and Fitz. Finau's on a tear. It's like what?
yeah.
Like, am I missing something here? What the hell is this?
I agree with you. Who knows? I mean, it's kind of tough for me as well because you it's tough. It's DFS, right? Like, you're not always
You got to think
going
of
for
it
the
that way.
winner.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, right? So, Cam Young, I don't know, if he top 5s, obviously, that's gonna be a great play no matter what his price is likely,
yeah.
but,
Right.
yeah, he just doesn't have the same overall long-term pedigree, like some of the guys around him. Of course, even Fitzpatrick and Finau in general just have better long-term, but, um, yeah, same thing. I think he finally got a salary increase, though, because if he was anything lower than that, he's probably gonna be the chalk, monster
Hmm.
of the week. So maybe that's, a little bit that goes into it.
Who's your chalk monster in here?
In this range,
Yeah, yeah,
ah, I don't know what the field's gonna do with Tony Finau this week. I would honestly assume Cameron Young would be near the top.
hmm.
Um, I'm not saying that I agree with that, of course, but,
Right, right.
um, gosh,
Man,
I
I
only
was super bullish on Zalatoris last week, so I think I might stay on him. He did the caddy switch mid tournament. That was so weird.
that is weird, and I guess that's maybe a small question mark.
Yeah.
Um, but I agree with you. He's one of my favorite plays this week. I thought he was going to be pretty popular, at least from a betting standpoint, but his outright number is pretty gross.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think his number is lower than Fitzpatrick and Tony Finau, even guys that have won, much more recently. But again, I think it's one of those things that he's just been so close to the top that books are trying just to cover their butts a little bit. And,
Yeah.
um, But so yeah, Zalatoris ranks fourth in ball striking, eighth in strokes gained tee to green, second in greens and regulations gained. It's also a great, fit for him. TPC Southwind is a ball strikers. I don't know what you want to call it, just
Yeah,
course, I guess.
they do well. Yeah,
They do well. I think that's a
they'll be
great way to
fine.
put it.
They'll be fine, guys.
Exactly. Yeah. And he just does well in these big events too. I don't like to look at that kind of thing as something to go off of. It's more of like a motivation thing, right? You can't really quantify it that a whole lot, but I just think that he plays his best in these stacks field, and I'll definitely be
Yeah,
looking at his outdoors.
it's also like, dude, just get a win. Get a win.
I know he's been so
Like,
close recently.
I don't care. Like, go play the Barbasol. Like, just get the win. Like, just get it, and then the floodgates will open.
Yeah, true. And that's a good point. I mean, he does. That's the problem, though, is he doesn't win these birdie fest events that he should go out. Like, he should have won the Wyndham last week. He was the top price guy.
His scorecard was bananas.
Yeah.
It'd
And
be
that's,
like 3 bogeys, 3 birdies, and then like 2 eagles. You're like, what's going on here?
yeah. And that's the issue, I guess. But this is more of a better course setup for him, I guess, in my opinion, just because of that ball striking. And he'll have a huge advantage on the field just by his, accuracy in general, overall. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I like it. Good call by us. We're smart, right?
Oh my god. Yeah.
Um, so yeah, Zalatoris, Cam Young, yeah, 9-3. Let me look at the ownership really quick just to see who is kind of coming up at least early in the week. Looks like Tony Finau and Zalatoris are the two
All right.
most popular as of right
What
now.
about
But
Victor? Anything there?
about who you said?
Hovland.
Victor, he's right in the middle, at least in this range, at least what I'm
Yeah.
seeing right now.
Okay.
And your boy Fitzpatrick, again, this is early, so this is clearly can change,
I
but
love
he's
this guy. He's so good.
yeah,
He
right
has
in the middle of it.
braces and wears Skechers. Favorite golfer.
Instantly towards the top of the
Like,
list
that sounds like he's in Downton Abbey. Like just imagine getting smoked by that guy. Like afterwards, it's like, hey, hello, Chase, thanks for playing. It's like, fuck,
there.
that just killed me.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, he's quite the character. It's fun hearing him talk a little bit more since his U.S. Open win.
His caddy's a legend. Like this was years ago,
Yeah.
but was bartending in the city and got to he hooked Billy Foster. Like took care of me all week.
Really?
Got players into the bar. Like it was a party for like a week, and he just took care of me like the nicest guy. Just
That's awesome.
So many stories and stuff. Like we'll talk about that offline, but yeah. So I'm a big fanboy.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm sure those caddies have so many stories too.
Dude, legends.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll move on to the 8K range here pretty soon. I do think ownership will be pretty flattened out, to be honest. There will be guys that get near 20%, but the guys around that, I think it's gonna be really flattened out. I don't think you need to, I don't know, I guess really be a slave to the ownership, I guess, lack of a better word. But so yeah, I don't know. Like we said,
that's
we
the
like
other thing
Zalatoris.
too, like when a field's this deep, don't think of your ownership percentages like you would last week or the week before, where there is like the field's not as deep, so you're gonna see a lot of like 20%ers and stuff. Like I feel like this week it's ownership's in play, but it's not the end all be all because it is so stacked and like you're gonna see high percentages in the brackets. But
Yeah. And even if you want to play Zalatoris and Finau, like there's so many great golfers in this in this field, you'll be able to get different in other places. So
we gonna get different.
we are gonna get different. Moving on to the 8K range here, there's no one at 8.8 or 8.9. We have Colin Morikawa at 8.7. We go all the way down to Mr. Tom Kim at 8,000 flat. Any thoughts on Tom Kim's victory last week? I wasn't able to watch it a whole lot. I know he gained 1 billion strokes putting, but what are your thoughts on the 20-year-old sensation from South Korea?
I mean, just blows my mind. Like I was talking to people yesterday. It's like he's not quite 21. I just can't imagine. Like I thought of myself at 20 and like my life at 20 compared to this guy. It's like, oh my god. Like, what a surreal life just to be 20 and just absolute stud. I mean, I hope he
Yeah.
sustains it, man. I think he will. I hope it's not just a one-hit wonder type of guy, but he seems like he has a good head on his shoulders and like super focused and
Yeah.
yeah,
I agree with you.
yeah.
He's quite, like I said, quite the character. Um, we said it last week on the stream with Sam. Like I said, he was going to be around for a while, and then he goes out and wins the ring tournament that we're talking
That
about.
boy.
But yeah, so he will definitely be here for a while. I think we do need to talk about him probably first here. He'll probably be pretty owned. I think that is well deserved for how well he's been playing. And it's too early for me to really say who's going to be the top chalk looking at stuff right now.
Yeah.
Um, he's just a safe play. Like he just does not make many mistakes. And I think this has been said so many times. The fact that he started with a quad bogey on the first hole on Thursday, and was
Oh my
not
god.
only able to savage the round, but go out and win the whole tournament is
Yeah.
insane.
Yeah. I faded him because I thought he was getting so much chalk, but turns out he was good chalk. But when I saw that quad, I was like, oh God, I should buy a house. Like,
100%.
yeah. And then just goes on this historic putting.
Yeah, and you can't predict that, right? But
Yeah.
and you're telling me I took time to write him up in my article for
Yeah.
fantasy points last week, and I didn't play him because of ownership. So I'm
I know.
kind
But
of
hey, I mean, you got to stick to your
yeah,
narrative and play. You can't get mad at it.
you're right. And those weeks do suck, but you're right. It's just sticking to the strategy is a
Long term, it'll be
20%.
better. Yeah.
Exactly. Is a 20%, 8,000, 8K golfer going to win every single week? Definitely not. But
Yeah.
those are ones that you kick yourself a little bit. You just need to listen to yourself a little more, right? But yeah, I don't know. That's why I said like we can talk about ownership forever, but chalk guys win all the time. There's been top favorites, in the
This year
outright.
too. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. It's one of those that I wish I would have seen coming, but you
Yeah.
live and you learn, you move on, right? So
Yeah. There.
good option in this range, or there's a lot of good options in this range, in my opinion. Colin Morikawa is becoming one of the most popular bets this week. He is obviously one of the best iron players in the world. I don't know. I just kind of worry about him. He hasn't been in great form. I guess when you look at his data or his events over the last few here, he missed two cuts in
Yeah.
Europe.
And that was
So
like forever ago, and we haven't seen him since.
yeah, so I think you can go both ways on that. You can say, oh, he missed two cuts. He's not in good form right now, but he's also had some time off. And those were two courses, I don't know. If you look at it the last couple of years, he's missed 3 out of 4 cuts in those two events, the Scottish and the Open Championship. And of course, he won the
Yeah.
other one.
Exactly.
But so maybe he just doesn't play great in Europe. He was T5 at the US Open. He gained strokes in all 4 major stat categories. I think he's another great case study this week. It's a great way to get different at 8-7. Any other thoughts on Morikawa there?
No, I think maybe in DFS I'll stay away, but as an outright, I think depending on the odds, obviously, but he could be
Yeah,
someone that, and I think that's just kind of the player he is.
yeah.
He's either going to make the cut and not really show any signs, or he's just going to absolutely put on a complete clinic.
Mhm.
I think he's just that kind of dude.
Yeah, and I do feel like he does come out of nowhere when he does well. Like he's in
Totally. So I
this,
think
yeah.
it sounds like that's what everyone's kind of thinking.
And that's not really probably the greatest narrative to go off of long
Right,
term,
right.
right?
Yeah.
But
And it's 2 cuts.
um,
I haven't seen him in 2 months. I'm going to bet
yeah,
him. Yeah,
but it's Colin Morikawa, right? And it's not like he's Rom at 10,000. He's 8-7.
exactly.
So
Yeah.
I don't know. That could be like the Cam Smith play from last year. That's kind of low owned, but we'll
Seeing
see
one
how it
more now
shakes
at
out.
8,700, like I never thought I would have seen that in for the next 10 years.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree. Yeah. You can really make some stacked lineups in these events. That's why I love them so much because you're able to play guys a bunch of guys in the same lineup that you're never able to unlock before just because it's so flattened out in salary here. So
Yeah.
good call there. Yeah, we talked about Morikawa. I'll throw it to you, Scott. Who else do you like in this range? Anyone else catching your eye?
Yeah. My first pick out of this was Joaquin Neiman at 81. I think, yeah, I don't know. What do you think ownership wise or odds wise? I think he's also someone who he's just developing his game more and more each season. Like, had a horrible short game. What's he do? Gets one of the most improved short games on the planet. You
Right.
know,
Yeah.
wins it Riv, like puts on a clinic there. I think he can play tough courses. I think he can catch fire. Yeah, I kind of like him. I think everyone's going to lean towards Bermuda Burns. That's just
Mhm.
that makes sense, but I think somewhere else you could go is somewhere in Tom Kim, probably people. So I think Neiman is a good kind of pivot play.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. How about
So
you?
as a I agree with you, man. As of right now, Neiman and Morikawa are the two lowest owned, besides Hideki, actually at 7% right now. That can obviously change, of course, but two great leverage options, in my opinion. Those two there again, Morikawa and Neiman. Pulling up Neiman's stats, he has made 2 out of 3 cuts here. Well, you can't look at cuts too much with the WGC event, but finished T17 here last year. Excuse me. He's made 6 out of 7 cuts, gain strokes, ball striking, and a majority of those 7 starts there. You're right. He's just like consistently improving. He's also another one of those guys that's been out of sight, out of mind too. So
Yeah.
I don't know. He's just been. I was playing him a lot before. He would always start off hot like Thursday or Friday, and then kind of sizzled out over the weekend. That's why I eventually
Yeah.
got off, but I don't know. I think it's so interesting this week because a lot of these guys haven't played. We have no clue what kind of form they're in. So that's why
Yeah.
you said it. It's one of those game theory weeks that
It's
you
gonna be
kind
fun.
of you kind of just press the button and hope that you know get near the top at the end. You can't really
Yeah.
go off a lot of stats or like I can talk about Neiman's ball striking over the last 8 events, but he hasn't played since July or middle of July.
It's
So
crazy.
that'll be interesting. Yeah.
And so I kind of like
Um,
Shane underperforming last week when everyone was on him,
yeah.
but his putting's been pretty atrocious.
That's been the narrative on him. Let me pull him up. I'm sure he lost strokes again once last week. I don't
But
know.
stats for Muta, I mean, I feel like slow greens are the greens that I think like good putters show up, but I think
Yeah.
fast greens let a lot more guys in.
Mhm.
Um, so like when I was looking at putting this week, I kind of really didn't care. It's like
Yeah.
you can just if you can read the line and just gauge your speed, it lets a lot of more a lot of guys in. So he might be a sneaky play.
Yeah. I agree with you. And I think Justin Thomas lost strokes putting in 2020 when he
Oh
won
yeah,
this
I
event.
heard that.
So
He, like still
yeah.
won. What?
Yeah. It's not like, yeah. So I don't know. I like looking at putting just to see who does well, like on Bermuda, for example, but it's really not one of those weeks where you have to throw it in all your
Yeah.
models, that kind of stuff. So we are getting shorter on time here. Let's jump ahead to
Oh
the
yeah, yeah.
$7,000 range here. Um, Again, this is really where there's quality golfers that are just pushed down in salary due to better golfers above them, of course. I'll ask you first here, Scott. Who do you think you're going to be playing in this value range here?
I mean, everyone's on Hatton, so probably getting off that. I think
Mhm.
everyone's going to Connors too, which I was kind of like, he's making cuts, but he's Canadian and too polite. He should be like top tenning. Like, what are you doing? You're just being too nice. Um, but I'm sticking with Keith Mitchell. I was on him last week. Showed some signs, but not. I kind of like him here. He's sort
Mhm.
of, I don't know. He's also parts of his game that were weak have been improving.
Yeah.
I'm thinking he's going to be low owned. He's a bomber, but for a bomber, he's pretty accurate. His putting's awesome. He can get hot. Um, he's kind of like a co-crack almost. Like bombs it. His putting's become his strength. Um, in it, I think he's 74. Yeah,
Yeah. Yep.
7,400. I think that's and a lot of people around him. Everyone's going to be on Thagala because he's the Twitter darling. Um, Connors, Hatton. I'm interested to see where Homa like his ownership goes because at
Yeah.
79, you think he'd be at like 30% because he's good on Twitter. Um, But in like big boy tournaments, he doesn't always show up.
Yeah.
And I think with Hatton being so low, it's like, eh. But sorry, Mitchell's my play in the 7. Yeah, anybody 775 and up you like, or
Yeah. No, I think those are both good calls. Mitchell is one of those guys that can just pop. When it's his week, it'll be a top 10, right? It's not going to be a T46, for example.
right.
I like that a lot. He plays great in Florida, which is mainly Bermuda greens for the most part. So like that quite a bit. Yeah, Homa, great call. He was a top 20 machine for a while, but he's lost strokes on approach for 3 events in a row now, it looks like. So that is a little worrisome, I guess. He's just, again,
But he's
he was
good
a
on
top.
Twitter.
He has to be good this week then, right?
Yeah. Like what?
Yeah. As far,
Well,
like I said, go ahead.
oh, and Adam Long was someone else I'm looking at.
Do you know why he withdrew last week? Oh, it was illness, right?
He texted me, but I forget. Hold on.
It's like, hey, Scott,
He
I'm
just
about to
said
W.
not today. That's what he
Yeah.
texted.
Okay.
Like, all right.
So not much context.
Yeah. I just like, yeah, he grades out well, I think.
Yep. Good ball striker for sure.
Yeah,
If we're talking about ball strikers, Aaron Wise is probably going to get some steam this week. Taylor Pendrith, kind of a pretty good ball striker, right? Didn't think he'd play that great last week at a course that wasn't as, set up for him, at least from a bombing perspective, but he, had a great finish once again. Mito Pereira is interesting. He also grades out really well for
there
me,
we
but I
go.
think he's missed like 4 or 5 cuts, right? But God, he is near the top of a lot of different stats that I look at. 13th in ball striking, 13th in approach. He's really top 20 in a lot of those main stats that I'm looking at this week. So, any
Yeah.
thoughts on Mito?
I'm a pass this week.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you said, coming off of I think it's like 4 or 5 miscuts, not showing signs. But either was Scott Piercy.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, I think similar thing. Like he'll be popular at 7,500,
hmm
but
So,
I think there's way better plays this week in this.
yeah, I agree with you. And last year, this event came right after the Olympics. So, there was actually some results from a lot of these top guys that we could look at least in terms of recent form. This year, I mean, really Tony Finau, like I said, Patrick Cantlay are the 2 guys at the top that have been playing recently.
Mhm.
I think I didn't write this up, but another essential question that I have this week is how are these like rookies or guys that have been hot over the last like 2 to 3 weeks? Riley had a good week last week, but Pendrith that I'm talking about,
Yeah,
DeGaw as well, a little bit, not so much recently, but like guys that have been playing well in those birdie fests in the Midwest that it's going to be a little bit different of a course this week. I'm really interested to see how they do. I talked about Taylor Moore in my article. Any rookies that stand out to you in this range or any,
kind of young guns.
yeah, anything like that?
In the 7s, who did I have right
Could be
now?
6 too.
Oh, okay. In that case,
Because there's quite a few in the 6K range. We'll get to
yeah.
that here.
Who did I mark down? Sorry.
No, you're good.
Oh, Ricky Fowler. No.
Of course.
Gotta have Lippy on there. No. I mean, I agree with you, but I mean, did you have any rookies that were standing out that you were thinking are gonna hang with the big boys?
So that's again the main question, right? Is like Taylor Moore has 2 top 6 finishes in a row, but they came on weaker fields, a little bit of an easier course setup, but he's gained strokes in all 4 stat categories in both of those. Let's see, Aaron Rye potentially. He actually has good course
I have
history
him.
here.
Yeah,
Yep, don't
he
have him.
checks all around tough course.
Yep, yep.
He's in the player pool for sure.
I like that. He's got 2 top 30s in his 2 starts here, I believe. Stefan Jaeger, I think I have that pronunciation right.
God, that guy. I was on that guy like all last year,
Mhm.
and then now he's finally starting to pop when I've been off him, and like this classic DFS like guy you champion for a year and is now just smoking you.
Yeah, and the thing with him is a lot of his great finishes have been like he'll just have a round like that 62 or 63 that just sends him up the leaderboard in one of
Yeah.
those rounds, and that's kind of what you need to get a top 20 a lot of the
True.
times. So as long as you're not messing up too much. So yeah, kind of like him, but otherwise, I don't know. It's more of a wait and see, I guess, for some of them. It'll be interesting to see how they
Svensson,
do.
a lot of people
What?
they love Svensson.
Yeah, he's gonna. What is he priced this week? Is he in the
67,
sevens or
68.
67? Man, that's I don't know. He's one of those. He's nowhere near Cameron Young's talent, right? But he's one of those that I wish was priced up a little bit higher, like Young, just so
Mm.
that he's not just the insane chalk. I guarantee he'll be 10, 15%. We'll see, but yeah, let's talk about some of these 6K range guys. Before we do that, I want to give a special shout out to Blatant Golf and Joe. He always talks about the sickos here in this the
Yeah,
6K range, but I'm rocking that Blatant Golf polo here today. I'll be talking with him tomorrow night, talking about some leverage
yeah.
plays. But I know you
That's
were rocking a T-shirt as well, right?
oh my God, he's sponsored me basically. He's so
That's
kind.
awesome.
All those guys are so good. He sent me stuff. It was so sweet. He
Yeah,
was like, "Am I gonna cry?" Because I just get this package out of nowhere, and it's like, "Hey, cuz, didn't want you to just have." Because I like posted about it. I was like, "This is literally my only golf shirt. Like, thank you so much." It's like so kind and like just generous. And then he sent me like a couple T-shirts, and it's like quality stuff.
yeah.
And just good
Yeah,
people, man. So yeah, I'm pumped to see you guys talk it out tomorrow.
thank you. I appreciate that. I will be looking forward to it, of course, all day tomorrow. But
Yeah,
you're
me
right.
too.
It's high quality. Yeah. Great
Quality
golf
people,
attire.
quality brand. Yeah,
Agreed. So yeah. And like I said, he's kind of the king of these 6K sickos, as he calls
yeah.
them. Um, I'll kind of bring up a couple here. Like I said, Taylor Moore, I like quite a bit. Again, if I tell you he's got back to back top six finishes where he's gained strokes in all four stat categories, you're going to want to play him right. But again, it was weaker fields, a little bit different course setup, and it's maybe one of those that he's just playing really hot recently. But at 6.8K, I really like him. I don't think he's going to be extremely popular as well. He's still kind of under the radar a little bit.
Yeah.
He's just been playing really well on the weekends recently. But otherwise, and down here, I like to just look for guys that pop in a certain stat. I think Lucas Herbert's the top Bermuda putter.
Mhm.
Mark Hubbard hits fairways all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting down here. There's like even if you scroll all the way towards the bottom, there's some guys that I would even play at 6.2, for example.
Oh,
Uh,
hey.
I don't know. Doug Gim's a good driver, right? I don't know. It'll be interesting. Who's catching your eye in this sicko range
In
down
the
here?
sixes, I had who did I mark down? Lipsky, David Lipsky. I'm kind of a
Yeah.
Lipsky 6K guy.
Yep.
Good approach, accurate. Yeah, honestly, down here, I'm always looking for like one or two stats, and then just a wild card. Grayson Sig, he's been showing signs.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but Luke List for some reason, I think I'm buying into the narrative of like, fast greens allow horrible putters. And
Yeah.
he's a bomber and approach guy. I think he's missed like 3 cuts in a row. Before that it was like top 20. So it's kind of like maybe it's a little Luke List bounce back.
Yeah.
Um, I had one more. Sorry.
No, you're
Oh,
good.
I was joking earlier, but like Step Straka, who's missed like 10 cuts in a row.
Yeah.
Rob, there's a bit of leverage there.
Yeah, I agree. I've
Yeah.
heard him a couple times in the last couple of weeks, and I've stayed away, luckily.
Oh,
It
dude. Yeah.
seems
He
like
like
he
barely
Go
broke
ahead.
80 last week. Like,
Yeah. It seems like he
so,
has, like, a terrible round, and then he'll have a decent round, but it's just not enough to make the cut.
I mean, he wears squares.
Strokes gained shoes or,
Woo!
strokes gained, just golf
Yeah.
attire in general. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah,
Um,
he needs a blatant shirt.
I think that
And then
would
he would
fix the
just
cut.
be auto tap T10 machine.
I think that would fix the miscut, streak there that we're seeing, so,
Yeah,
um
freaking shirt, Joe.
I like your call on Lipsky. I like the call on Luke List if we're looking at ball strikers, right? Um, Colin
Oh,
Tarrant's been playing decently. Otherwise, the guy I like, we'll see, I guess. This is more of a course history thing, but Trey Mullinax has played here twice. I didn't know he was this
hmm.
old. I thought he was younger for a rookie, but
Yeah,
maybe he might have been on tour beforehand. But he let me go back. He's finished T6 and T18 in 2 starts here. This was back before it was a WGC event. Yeah, he was actually on tour in 2017 to 2019, but
yeah.
uh, yeah,
Well,
I
I
missed
penciled
that.
in Streelman, just like a crusty vet coming off a miscut, like
Yeah,
trying to stack some cash type of play.
I
Um,
like that.
there's
Yeah.
always like I think the 6K is always like I always look at like I was playing Glover like all last year, and then he finally won the John Deere, where it's
Mhm.
just you're gonna have guys that were studs back in the day that that's still there and it's gonna pop, and I don't know,
Yeah.
something like that's kind of also a thing I look for down here.
Yeah, you just gotta find that right week, I guess, and,
Totally.
um, yeah, you're right on. I mean, Streelman, he actually gained strokes in all 3 last week, actually really well, and lost
Yeah.
over 3 strokes putting, I
Yeah,
think,
yeah,
so,
yeah.
it could be yeah, so that's pretty tough, especially on a course that would fit him well, but he just couldn't putt the ball, it seems like,
Yeah, him
so
and it was like Webb could also be if he's got like one more in him. Like he was someone that was just like an auto top 20 or win last year. I think he would. Oh no, he withdrew.
yeah.
Um, Guys like that are just comfortable in big, deep fields that have some pedigree and experience, who are
Mhm.
coming off a crap week before. I always play like a bounce back in my lineups too.
Yeah. I try to do that too because there's especially the great golfers, right? There's only so many missed cuts that the guys has, in a given
Right.
season, and it
Totally.
rarely do they see, it's, again, that's the top guys, not the Sepp Strakas, but rarely do they have 2 in a row, and you can get that bounce back at good leverage too. So before we get out of here, any other guys in this range here that you want to mention or shout out?
No, no, I figured. Who's that?
Oh, that's my dog. Do you hear
What's
that?
your dog's name?
His name's Boston.
Woo!
Yeah.
My dog Glacier is usually an issue anytime I'm on a show, but he's been good. So shout out Glacier.
Glacier just knows.
He's figuring it out.
That's funny. You posted your dog yesterday. That was a great pick.
Oh, I could do a whole podcast on the dog park alone. It's like Parks and Rec meets The Office. Like it's insane.
A lot of characters there as well.
Oh my God. It's so good.
Tom Kim would fit in pretty well. All right, Scott, I really got to thank you for coming on here tonight. Any other, final thoughts? Anything you want to talk about here before we get out of here tonight?
We didn't get to Beyonce's album. We'll do that next time.
Part 2. That's actually for VIPs if you subscribe to
Oh
Fantasy
yeah,
Points.
Discord. Hit us up in the Discord.
Yes, you will.
No, yeah, man. Thanks for being so good to me and what you do for fantasy and fantasy points and all that stuff. You guys do a great job, and I'm just really pumped to be here. And thanks for doing what you do, man.
Thanks, Scott. You're not only one of the funniest, but you're also one of the kindest guys on PGA
Oh,
Twitter, in my
thanks, man.
opinion.
Yeah, I
So,
care about my dudes, man. You guys are all. It's a cool community. It's great.
yeah, and I kind of brought it up a little bit. Producer says get a room, but we talked about. I highlighted a little bit. PGA DFS Twitter has been one of the more fun things, I guess, that I've been involved in over the last couple of years now. I guess the fact that we're chatting on a live stream here about
Yeah.
all of these dudes that is really irrelevant to how they actually play, but we just have so much fun with it. There's so many great guys out there,
Totally.
on Twitter. It's been a lot of fun to get to know guys like you. So thanks for
Yeah.
coming on, Scott.
Yeah. My secret goal, I've told this a few times, like, man, if I win big, I'm throwing the biggest golf Twitter party ever.
Yeah,
Get the gang out.
it'd be pretty fun. I know people they did this before, like a DFS golf invite. It just sucks that we live so far apart from each other, everybody.
Yeah.
But
Well, when I play out by you, when I get a gig out there, I'll come. We'll hang out. We'll go play or something.
well, I thought you're not in the field for the Corn Ferry Tour event this.
I'm playing the after party. I'm playing guitar at the after party.
That's right. That's right. That's
The
right.
Arby's. Yeah.
They said there were some big country artists there, so I know
Yeah,
that's kinda
yeah.
right up your
I'll be
alley.
slinging.
All right. Well, again, thanks, Scott, for coming on here. You can find him at Holdridge_Scott, correct, on Twitter?
Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah. Or just call me. Yeah.
Yeah, we all got your number, of course. So
Numbers in the bio.
I'll post Scott's
Post
number to Twitter later tonight so you
post
can
my
text
address
him.
and fears. Yeah.
Of course. Well, again, thanks for coming on here, Scott. Thanks everybody for tuning in here tonight. It's been a lot of fun to chat with you. Good luck this week, everybody. We have 3 great, star-studded events to wrap up the PGA Tour season, and then we take a massive 2-week off-season break before teeing it up in the fall swing. So, thanks again, Scott. Appreciate you coming on here tonight. Any final words here for us before we head out?
No, just thank you, man. Appreciate you.
Appreciate it, man. Well, good luck, everybody, and thanks again for tuning in. Have a great rest of your night. Peace out.